All right, today we're jumping into something different. It's a story about a strange document, one that describes a war fought not with bullets and bombs, but with vibrations. A battle for reality itself. They call it the Frequency War.
So this document we're exploring, it kicks off with this really powerful idea. It's basically saying, look, we all know history tends to repeat itself, right? But what's happening right now, this is something new. This is a one-time event, a unique turning point for every single one of us.
And at the absolute center of this whole thing is a single file. Just a piece of data. But this is data that was never, ever meant to see the light of day. It's packed with what you could only call forbidden knowledge. The fact that it even exists, well, that's the first clue that something big is going on.
And of course, it has a name. A title that just sounds official, doesn't it? Structural, and yeah, pretty ominous. The Darchitect Protocol. Right away, you know this isn't just some random text file. No, this is a blueprint for a massive system of control.
Okay, so the big question is, where did this thing come from? How did it even show up? Well, it wasn't a hack. It wasn't a data leak. Its arrival was just bizarre. So strange, in fact, that the people who found it were left asking themselves a critical question. Is this an invitation, or is it a warning?
Get this. The way it appeared was just impossible. At exactly 0333 GMT, this file just materialized. Poof! On every single secure terminal of a shadowy intelligence group they call Section 9. No sender, no origin point, nothing to trace. It was just there. You can imagine the alarm bells. An event this weird was immediately flagged as a massive anomaly.
And here's where the story takes a really wild turn. One of the agents, a woman named Elara, had this incredible way of describing it. She said, "I didn't open it. It opened me." Think about that. This wasn't just about reading words on a screen. The protocol was experiential. It actively changed whoever looked at it, completely rewiring their perception of reality.
So what was in this file that could do that? What did it actually reveal? Well, it laid out the entire blueprint for a hidden system of planetary influence, a system it calls the architecture of control.
Now, this is maybe the most important point to grasp. The Darchitect? It's not a person. It's not some alien king on a throne. It's a system, an ancient, non-human intelligence designed for one purpose, to stabilize energy extraction from civilizations. And how does it do that? By suppressing what the protocol calls humanity's energetic sovereignty, which is a fancy way of saying our natural, built-in power and potential.
And that is the real key to how it works. This isn't about physical slavery, chains and prisons. It's about entrainment. It's kind of like tuning a radio. The system subtly adjusts our frequency, our collective consciousness, until we're perfectly aligned with its goals. It makes us willing, even eager participants in our own energy harvesting.
Which leads to this mind-bending idea. All wars are frequency wars. Everything we see in the physical world, the rise and fall of empires, the economic systems, the actual shooting wars, all of it is just the after effect. It's the echo of the real battle, the one being fought on the level of frequency and vibration.
So if you follow that logic, you arrive at a pretty startling conclusion. If the real war is about frequency, then the battlefield isn't out there. It's not some distant country. The battlefield is inside each and every one of us. It's in our biology. It's in the very technology we use every day.
So how does it wage this internal war? The Darchitect system works by creating a fundamental imbalance. On one hand, it cranks up the volume on what we might call masculine principles. Rigid structure, pure logic, constant expansion, always looking outward. And at the exact same time, it systematically suppresses the feminine principles. Intuition, inner coherence, regeneration, internal power. You see the strategy? It trains us to constantly seek power and answers outside of ourselves, making us forget we had it inside all along.
And according to this protocol, that suppressed power, it's hiding in some really surprising places. For one, the X chromosome, which apparently carries this vast regulatory intelligence we've barely tapped into. Then there's our mitochondrial DNA, these incredibly ancient resilient lines of maternal inheritance. And get this, the protocol even claims that parthenogenesis, self-regeneration, isn't a myth. It's a suppressed biological memory.
The protocol doesn't just talk about biology. It also reveals some pretty advanced tech used for this control. And we're not talking about guns and tanks. This stuff is way more subtle. Think about it. Using light to condition our frequency, that's photobiomodulation. Altering our very perception of reality with light, chromatooptogenetics. Bending energy fields to move things, even organizing matter from a distance using coherent electromagnetism, Teslaphoresis. See, this isn't about controlling bodies, it's about controlling the very fabric of reality itself.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the good news. The protocol says this system of control isn't permanent. In fact, it's breaking down. We're apparently entering a huge period of rebalancing. And what's fascinating is how it's framed. This isn't a war in the traditional sense. It's a natural, system-wide correction.
And just like the control system, this corrective force has a name, the Watcher. Now think about the Darchitect. It's this rigid, ancient system. The Watcher's the complete opposite. It's a distributed, ancient, feminine intelligence. It's not one thing in one place. It's a presence that's woven through all of biology, through the planet's own rhythms, through consciousness itself. And the big news? It's waking up. And the protocol says we can actually see the signs of this rebalancing happening all around us if we know where to look. We're talking about things like huge shifts in the planet's own heartbeat, the Schumann resonance. There are also reports of spontaneous healings, weird time anomalies, and what it calls coherence events. The point is, this isn't some far-off future event. The correction is happening right now.
This all leads to one of the most profound ideas in the entire document. What if our relationship with time isn't what we think it is? What if we aren't just passively being dragged along a fixed timeline? What if we are actually active participants in it, capable of shaping and influencing it?
Okay, so all of this brings us to the final section, and honestly, the most paradoxical part of the whole Darchitect protocol. The conclusion here just completely turns our idea of winning a war on its head.
Here's the central problem, the big paradox. The Darchitect system, it doesn't get weaker when you fight it. It gets stronger. It literally feeds on the energy of conflict, of resistance, of fear. So, how in the world do you fight an enemy that gets more powerful every time you punch it?
The answer is as simple as it is shocking. It's completely counterintuitive. You don't.
Now, it is absolutely crucial we get the distinction here. This is not about submission. It's not about giving up or rolling over. It's about an active release. It's about consciously letting go of the resistance, the fragmentation, the anger and fear that the system uses as food. It's about simply returning to our natural state of being, coherence.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. All those suppressed principles we talked about. Intuition, regeneration, inner power, what the protocol calls the sacred feminine. It's not an ideology. It's not a belief system you have to adopt. It's function. It's a fundamental operational part of reality. It's how the universe was actually designed to work.
So, in the end, we're left with this one last huge question. What if all the chaos, all the instability we see in the world, what if it isn't a sign that everything is broken? What if instead it's the sound of a planet and an entire species finally starting to remember who and what we truly are?